Okay, let's get started. My name is Chuck Mallory, and I'm the Director of Strategic Accounts for the automotive segment in North America. I have the pleasure of introducing Johan Thelin, who's with Pelagicore, and he says he's a software guy. He's a system architecture type guy, and he'll be here for, he's got 25 minutes. So
yeah, 20 minutes plus
So I'm going to turn it over here. If you want someone to follow up with the conversation and like to have further discussions about what he talked about today, I'll be in the back. If you want to, I'll give you my business card. We can have a follow-up from there.
So hi, welcome. I work with Pelagicore. I'm just going to spend a single slide on Pelagicore. We try to put stunning user interfaces on the road, and to be more specific, Qt-based stunning user interfaces on the road. And we think that's about experience change for the automotive industry, to really change the way that you approach how you do these systems. So IVI, I guess everyone here are familiar with IVI. I really like this picture. This is a demonstration car, so it's not a real one. But still, this is what faces you as a customer when you enter a car. It's screens, 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 and screens, and then some lights. But it's a lot about the screens and the screen content. And it's becoming more and more important. When we transition towards autonomous vehicles and so on, screens become even more important, because that's where you're going to spend your time. I'm going to talk about something called the Qt Automotive Suite, which is a joint product offering between QtWS, the Qt company, and us from Pelagicore. I'm going to start here. When I started in automotive, I actually started earlier doing dependability and diagnostics functions for automatic transmissions. But when I started with HMIs 6 years ago, this was actually something you encountered. It's basically a monolith with a thin skin on it. And things are actually improving. So we're still looking at the thin skin, but the platform is being broken down into more and more modules. This is being driven by various factors. So you have a Linux acceptance down here in the platform, for instance, that's driving the adoption of reusable code and in many times open source code. But if you look at Qt Auto Suite, it's more about creating this abstraction layer, separating the platform from the applications, creating reusable applications. And if you look at it from sort of a supplier OEM perspective, this is what makes the car, the presentation and the application contents. This is what's unique to every automotive brand, while this one can be shared in many parts. And then Qt Automotive Suite is really built to enable that way of working. It says that you can make your applications fatter, because of course you can still only make it skin if you like to. Just picking out all the parts that are not a part of the Qt Automotive Suite from the previous slide. There are some additional modules. There's one called Qt Geneva Extras, which you don't really see as a user. It's more of a new backend to Qt that integrates into Geneva services, where Geneva is an open source standardization organization. And you also have Gamma Ray and QML Live. Gamma Ray from QtWS is an introspection and modification tool, so you can actually look at your application while running it and change the state of it. QML Live is a rapid prototyping tool. But let's dive into the details. So starting with Application Manager, it's a compositor. So we have the top left corner there. Let me get down here and point. So we have a Wayland compositor, leveraging Qt Wayland basically. But what it does, it's aware of applications. So you have an application launcher. So when you get a surface, you can ask, what application does this surface belong to? And you can look at the manifest of that application. What's the application allowed to do? And you can create rules. So a media application always turns up on the left side, and a game isn't allowed to be shown while the vehicle is moving. And you can handle all of that in your compositor. And we provide the mechanisms you need to tie those rules together. We have the launcher, so you can monitor if the application is running, you can stop it, and so on. We do security and lifecycle management, so we trust the packages we install. They are cryptographically signed. We can start them within containers or UID jails and so on. Various runtime environments. Basically, you have the full scale from running it using a QML loader inside your compositor, to running it into a container. And then since this is the compositor, it also does user input management. But on an embedded system without a keyboard, that also means that it's usually the place where you put all the logic to handle virtual keyboards and such to move the application content so you actually see what you're typing when you're using an on-screen keyboard. So I had two boxes, System UI and Application Manager. So System UI is what we call the graphical shell, the QML code that puts together your compositor. And it's important to realize that Application Manager acts as a runtime environment for that shell. So it's a single process from a deployment perspective. So you run your QML System UI inside of Application Manager or on top of, depending on how you want to view it. And you can extend this any way you can any other QML application. So you can have your own plugin modules and so on to extend the functionality. But what you get from Application Manager is basically 4 singletons in the global namespace. You have an application manager singleton, which is a model of all the applications installed in the system. You can see, are they running, are they not running, all the metadata to present them, icons, names in different languages and so on. You can start them, stop them, all of that. You have application installer, which does the same thing, but for installable applications. Is it installed? What version is it? Can you upgrade it? Handle download and see the progress of the download, things like that. The window manager, Wayland Compositor. Earlier I would have said that it has a stable API, but now QtWayland has that as well. So it's the window manager, but you can actually find your way back from here to there. That's the trick. And then we have a notification manager object, which implements the server side of org free desktop notifications. So you can push notifications that way. And it's important to realize that this is only dbus and Wayland towards the client. So we don't enforce you to use Qt throughout the whole stack. Typically, navigation engines could be pure OpenGL, for instance. So they only need a Wayland surface to render to. And we don't enforce them to use Qt on that side. Also, web contents you can run there without actually using the Qt Webkit if you don't want to. Of course, we encourage it, but you don't have to. So let's see, how are we on time? I can actually run through a couple of examples. Just to demonstrate the application manager, this is a really trivial launcher, and there are better examples online. I'll provide you with the source code links later on. You can see a demo down at our booth downstairs. We're in that corner. But basically, you have a list view. You set application manager as your model, which means that you get all the applications. We present the ID, which is a unique name for the applications. You probably get something like org.genevi.tuner example or something. And then when you click it, we just tell application manager, start that ID. That's all you need to do. That's a trivial launcher. You want to monitor what's running, was there another tuner running earlier, so you might want to only have one up and running and so on. So it's too little code, but it demonstrates the general concept. Looking at the compositor, this probably is very familiar if you look at the QML examples for how to write a QML compositor using QtWayland. So basically you have the surface item is ready, a surface item is closing, or you lost it for another reason. So you can maintain your list of surfaces that you compose. You connect that to your functions, and here we have ready handler, for instance. This is taken from our reference examples. We have a single full screen window. So we just put the last surface we encounter into the top level window. But what you also can do then is, if you take window manager get the win index, which is the index you have here, you can look at the application ID, and that you can use to go back to the application manager, look at the manifest, see what category is this, what flags did I pass it, which is basically just a list of strings. So you have a lot of flexibility, but you can pass on that information. Let's see. Yeah, and this is the last one, and this was actually directed to Genevi in Paris, but it's how do you sort of communicate what's the contents of a specific window? And this is more of a demonstration of what QtWayland can do than what's unique about the application manager. But by setting window properties on the client side, you can pick them up. on the server side, which means that you can have multiple surfaces from a single application, and you simply say which surface is which, and then you can compose them accordingly. So you can say that this surface goes onto my instrument cluster, while this one goes onto my center stack, and so on. But again, very trivial code to do all these common use cases. The other part, platform abstraction. Qt Automotive Suite is Qt for device creation, but with additions to handle automotive use cases. So it's an embedded Linux system in most cases. You can deploy it onto Qnix as well if you like to. But Qt should be the main abstraction. If Qt provides something, we reuse it. We don't reinvent the wheel. QtGNB extras is basically like these _x11 _Unix files that you find here and there in the Qt code base, but it's for GNB. So what we have right now is that the categorized logging goes into the GNB DLT, so diagnostic log and trace, which means that you can gather all the logging from all the services running on the system, including the Qt ones, without having to add any extra comments or documentation to the Qt code. We're also working on mapping Q settings onto the persistence client. It doesn't really map one-to-one. Another thing we really want to do is to integrate the node state manager in the Q core application class. The node state manager is about, I'd say it's primarily about controlled shutdown. In automotive system, it's really important to start fast. And the worst case generally is when you turn the power off and then change your mind before we've actually turned everything off. So the node state manager has a state where it can say that we're going to go down to just before we shut down. So don't shut off, but stop writing to the disk, make sure we can sync all the flash, start unmounting file systems, so that the actual power off is very, very trivial and very, very fast, so we can meet the startup use case. And this is something that needs to go into something like the Qt core application, where you basically have hooks saying that now you need to shut down, but you're not supposed to go all the way down. And now you need to resume, because we change our mind. And then, in addition to that, we have a module called QtIVI, and that's for the extensible stuff. So the reason for this is really that all IVI systems I've seen are slightly different. Even if you take something like a radio or climate control that you think is almost off the shelf, everything works the same way, all the vendors try to differentiate. So you have slightly different features. You might have one more feature in one car, one less feature in another one. So what we decided was that we want to have at least a pattern, so that we can address the use cases that we see. We need to start up fast, so we need to control how you load your API plugin into QML. We want it to be testable. We actually want to have a simulator as well, not only for testing, but also for third-party or what we call second-party application developers, so developing outside of the main project. It can also be used to have multiple implementations of the same thing, so either if you go between different generations, or if you go between different configurations of the vehicle, you can have different backends. And the idea is that the application sees a feature, which is basically our name for APIs. The feature doesn't actually implement the function. It implements an abstract backend interface, which then is implemented by these. And the core module just provides the tool to make it really easy to find your way from there to there, so that you load the right module. And then to do that in a predictable manner on the target. So what's in the box if it's just a pattern? I mean, you're buying an idea. But we have core that makes it easy to do these things, like trivial easy. And we also have a reference API. And the reference API is continuously growing. And you can use it right away if you like to. I mean, it's a full automotive media stack. You have some vehicle functions like climate control, seat positioners and stuff. You can also extend it. It's simple C++, so you can inherit it and add your own properties to it. Or you can just see it as a really big example. Use it as inspiration for doing your own APIs for your own specific features. And then in this module, you have QtIVI.git on code Qt.io. There is where the QtGNB extras lies, if you're looking for that module. It's more to avoid having two small modules. So if you look at the full stack again, you have the application manager that provides you with the mechanisms you need for your system UI, and then you have the abstraction layer. We have some tooling in addition to this. QML Live is a rapid UI prototyping tool. It's a reloader. So basically, when you save your QML, it restarts the QML application with the new content. But it's also a server client, so you can run the client on your target hardware. So you can live reload on your hardware with the right backlight, with the right touch. And you don't need anything more than just being on the same network, finding your target, and then you can start. So you can actually sit as a designer with embedded target with the QML Live client firmware on it, and simply keep on reloading your QML and try it on the real screen. And if you work as I with 2 screens, and you're really annoyed that every time you restart your QML application, it shows up in the wrong place, that's where I use QML Live. Then you put your QML Live window where you want it, and you keep on reloading into it, so the window doesn't move around. We have Gamma Ray from KTAB, deep introspection into the system, also modification abilities, you can change properties. And then we have the device emulator from the Qt company, so you can actually deploy onto a virtual device on your desktop PC. So if you have third-party application developer or want to develop stuff outside of the main CI system, this is a good place to put that. There's a demo putting all of this together called Neptune. Actually, I think it's 2 Gits. It's the Neptune and the Neptune App Store, which is a very trivial white label app store that you can use. Here you have, well, basically you have a cluster, and then you have the center stack of your car. It's not apparent here, but here you have 3 different surfaces composed together into the main screen. You can go into the media player, for instance. If you swipe sideways, you can end up in the car status and settings and app store and so on. It's running downstairs in our booth, so feel free to come down there and play with it. And everything I've shown here is open source. Well, the source code on the slides is heavily shortened to fit onto slides. But if you look at code.qt.io, you have it all there. You can also look for the Qt Automotive suite on qt.io. So please join us. There's a mailing list. Feel free to get hacking. And thank you. And I made it with only 24 seconds overtime.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
Who is responsible for maintaining the Qt extras Geneva?
Well,
Extras, the Geneva extras.
Dominic Holland from Pelagicore is responsible for the module, so he's the owner, but I mean, it's an open source project, so anyone can come with requests to extend it. So all of this is governed under the open governance program of Qt, so it's handled like any other Qt module. And then you can see various module owners. You have a hand behind you now.
Hello. Do you have plans to add to application manager start in native apps like C++?
Yes.
Okay.
What's currently being worked on now is that there is an IPC mechanism. It's really easy to push a Q object from the window manager side to the client side, which integrates nicely in our QML base class. But we're putting that into lib so that you can do it with C++ clients as well. Otherwise, you need to implement the dbus client side manually. But the idea is to support anything, and not only Qt applications, but any application.
My question is, how many effort you will take if I want porting all your QtAS to the Android platform?
How many applications we have?
How many effort I need to take? I need take effort. How many effort I want to take? If I want porting all your QtAS platform to the
If you have Qt and Wayland support, I'd say it's just about compiling it. If you don't have Qt support, of course, it's a bigger effort.
You mean I must need a Qt platform?
It's easier that way. We're happy to help you with a non-Qt platform, but We require Qt support, so the first you do is to port Qt to it, and then
Oh, I got it.
Application Manager is based onto Qt Wayland, for instance. I saw you.
When it comes to doing custom graphics with your design team, what's the best practice? Do you guys like just do SVGs, PNGs? Like, do you guys run scripts to help you guys out? Or?
We generally use PNG Express to generate pre-cut, pre-scaled PNGs. There's actually a talk called Rapid UI Development or Prototyping by Jürgen Bucklark from QtCon last year, I think, where he demonstrated QML Live and the whole workflow, basically going from wireframes and then adding graphics, doing the slicing of the graphics onto the target. Okay. So look for videos on YouTube.
There is videos on. Okay.
Yes.
I'll look them up. Thank you.
There was a question here as well.
Thank you. Could you say a little bit about the trade-off between QML and Qt widgets and Webkit bases for driver-facing applications?
QML is a lot closer to OpenGL, so I'd say it's easier to get performance out of it, but then I'm familiar with it. Widgets I wouldn't recommend in sort of device UIs like this, where you want to do transitions and blend things together and so on. Much because you don't have the implicit cutting to your child size. When it comes to web contents, I'm not sure about the implications, but QML maps more straightly onto OpenGL. So in my experience, it's easier to know that you get the performance there. In web, you need to avoid certain patterns to ensure that you get the performance.
Okay, thank you. I want a couple clarification points a little bit about what Qt Automotive Suite. Qt Automotive Suite is based upon Qt 5.7, and it is part of the open source project, but it's licensed under LGPL3 rather than 2.1.
Yep.
So if you're interested in the product, you probably need to engage with your Qt rep to have discussions about that. If you're in a pure research and development environment, and you want to do internal deployment, distribution of your source code among your team, that's probably okay. But you need to be consulting with your compliance people and with the Qt people about whether or not what's your best strategy for relative to going to production. So that's the only thing I want to clarify a little bit about the open source comment, is that it is based upon Qt 5.7. Okay. If you have nothing else, if you need someone would like to talk further, have some questions, I'm going to leave my business cards right here up on the podium. If you want some further discussions, we can do that. Someone will probably reach out to you. Might have my name on it, but it'll be an automated email. You can be sure. Thanking you for attending and stuff like that. But if you need to speak to someone fairly immediate, if you're North America, I'm the guy. If you're in Europe, it's Rolf Bittner, and if it's in Asia, there's a bunch of guys over there. So, but I appreciate you showing up and showing the interest. I want to thank Johan for the interesting discussion.
Thank you for the
We do have a book for you that we will give you. It's in the back.
You.
So thanks again for attending. I appreciate it. I hope you found it of interest.